I don't want to ask questions, Jeff. I just want to talk at people. I want to tell them what my product is, how great I am, how great it is. What do you think?
That I don't know if anybody's going to be listening. Because unless you're talking about something that somebody actually cares about, you're probably going to be talking to yourself on social media.
So that's why I have no friends.
That could do it. Because, I mean, if you're not asking questions, how do you know what people are looking for? What information do they need?
So how do you ask questions? Because if it was so easy, why doesn't everybody do that first?
I mean, that's the $1 million question right there.
Yeah.
So see how you're asking?
Like, how
you're
do you
like,
do
well,
it?
how do they? So by you asking that question,
I
now I know that you want to know how do you ask the question, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example, live example right there of exactly how to know. I'm about to give you information you asked for.
Yeah.
So you didn't just ask me how do you do it, and I'm going to start going about, well, let me tell you about our mortgage products today. Let's talk about what you wanted to know. So how do you identify? You put out certain pieces of information. So if you're using social media, you want to use it effectively. That means you want to cover a couple topics and then see what are people responding to. So if I'm talking about a mortgage product and I get no responses, and then I might talk about educating home buyers about home ownership and I get a ton of responses, and then I talk about another, let me tell you about my weekend, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, you know what? I started getting more focus on the education. So how do I focus on that and give the people that are responding that information?
That way you don't lose them.
Correct. You want to keep them engaged.
Yeah.
I didn't
Engage your
create the
audience.
wheel, but I know how it works. So I mean, that's why I like to figure out what are people looking for. Like for example, if I speak to a real estate agent, I don't start off by saying who I am and what I do. I like to think that if I'm talking to somebody, and then when I met Quasi, I didn't say, hey, I do mortgages, and I think I do a good job. I ask, what are you looking for? What is the lender you currently work with? Like, what do you like about them? What do you like about the products? The more I get out of the realtor or from Quasi, then I know, okay, well, he's concerned about products. He's concerned that they're not giving enough attention to the customer. They're concerned about they're not getting any options. Then I'll be like, okay, well, I can solve all of those problems. And let me tell you how.
Yeah.
So by asking the questions and him giving me the information, now I know what I'm going to give him back.
I have, so interesting enough, if you break down how to ask questions, if you look at communication, there's the if, the what, the when, the how, the why. So like, for example, you take any script in any business, it's just the questions that you need to know. For example, if that expired listing, like what happened? It's just the questions that you need to know with, let's say you're working with a new agent partner, why they got in the business. If you look at any script or any communication, like at any time, it's someone's asking a question and someone's answering, and then someone's listening and vice versa. So when I'm working with people, coaching, helping them figure out how to do this, it's like, if we break it down, it's like if, when, what, where, why. Like why questions are emotional. For example, if I'm walking down the street and you come up to me and you're like, you don't know me. Hey, why are you wearing that cologne? What's my first instinct? Now, if you said to me, hey, I'm just curious, what cologne is that? It's less emotional.
It is.
It's less personal.
Yeah.
So you keep that in mind when you're asking people questions. We start with more, think of like an iceberg. The real emotion is under the water. I don't deserve to get there yet with you. Like we got a date before we marry. So the more logical questions, the what and the how and the when, they're usually logical. You ask those first. And as you dig, you're going to get deeper. The why and if that and let's say. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
So it's
perfect
like
sense.
when we break it down like that, it's easier to start asking questions instead of talking at people.
Yeah.
Like if you sold that home, where would you go next? How soon do you have to be there? What do you
Basically-
stop?
So it's like when you ask a person, what is the most important thing that you would like to talk about? That basically opens the floor.
The floodgates.
For you to be able to find out like how you can help this person specifically.
Yeah.
Instead of you just going off the top and saying, well, listen, I can do X, Y, and
Exactly.
Z. But they're only interested in A, B, and C. Like we're not even on the same page. So, so to try to help me, help you, like what is the most, what's the most important thing that you want to talk about? Like what's really important to you, or what concerns or what questions do you have? Yeah.
And when I answer that, you're going to listen, and then you're going to make sure that I feel heard.
Yes.
And then you're going to say, for example, how do you feel about that? And then I'll answer, and then you say, tell me more about that. And you say, let's say that it looked like X, Y, and Z. how would you feel about that? Well, and then I'm going to answer. Tell me more about that.
Yep.
And I think of it as chess versus checkers. Most people in business and in life, they're communicating like checkers. Like, I get one, you get one. Like, chess is a strategic play. And if I'm listening 90% of the time, I have leverage. Now, not over you, because that would be manipulative, which you could do. But you make a decision to communicate at a high level, to communicate through love, not hatred. So not to manipulate you, but to listen to understand. So then as a professional, with whatever I do, I can guide you into the right place. So if you're a real estate agent,
Yes.
you're a loan officer, you're asking those questions, you're digging deeper so you can figure out where are they emotionally and where are they logically, so you can place them into the most logical product to help them.
Correct.
And the only way you can do that is questions.
That's it.
So the ifs, the hows, the whens, the whats, the whys, and the question is in what order?
Correct.
Agree. I mean, one of the things that I watch Gracie's like, I mean,
It's like-
when you break it down, like, so the people going to be watching the video will be like, I just got like a psychology lesson of how did,
Yeah.
how did I
It's
just
like,
ask questions?
what
go
just
from-
happened?
I just know I should be wearing cologne on an iceberg, but that's like what the way people are digesting information. But I mean I feel like there's an art to communication, and I feel like sales, when people say like, if you're doing the most talking, then you're losing the conversation, because I already know what I know. I need to know what you're thinking, and the only way to do that is by properly asking questions. And you're right. You also got to be careful what questions you ask, because it might be personal, especially when you're talking about real estate, people buying a home, and if something's a concern, like their credit, their employment history, where their money came from, like they had a hardship, they might not want to talk about that.
Yeah.
It might have been a divorce that led them to want to buy this house. It might have led to a death in the family that want to sell this house, an estate.
Yeah.
So you can't just come, why are you selling? You can't just come at somebody so aggressively. You got to kind of like ease them in and start asking questions. Well, I'm glad like you're looking to sell. You know, when are you looking to sell? Did you have a price in mind? And you start leading to, okay. Then you can start little by little seeing if they give you more and more information.
Yep. Think of brand, right? Brand, belief, consumers having you to solve a problem. In all communication, in all relationships, there is a brand or belief someone has in you. And think of their beliefs in their head and your beliefs in your head. The bridge that aligns you guys is called trust. The stronger that bridge is, the stronger their belief in you, the deeper you can go in the questions you ask. The deeper emotionally.
True.
Yep.
Like a relationship with your girl or your guy, whatever it is, you can ask them like, why? What's up? The stronger that relationship is.
Yeah.
A stranger, meaning there is no bridge yet, we need to get
They're not really
to
gonna
that
let you
relationship level. So it's the whats, the hows, the whens, the ifs, the listening. The listening
Yeah.
it's not quantifiable per se. However, there's an intuitive nature to it, which you'll feel the more you practice listening. So I call it, I don't call it prospecting, because we're not digging for gold here, brother. Call it listening practice.
Yep.
Like, I'm going to make hot calls today, not cold calls. We're going to make hot calls, and we're going to practice listening. Because that's the premise of the prospecting, is listening practice. Now, food for thought. You said something interesting about you're
Iceberg?
talking to, well, you said when you're talking too much. Something to take to that. When you are talking, the question you have to ask yourself, are you telling or are you storytelling?
It's a little bit of both.
If we, well, yes, so if we reverse engineered what I just did for the last 60 seconds, what did I do? I used analogies, right, metaphors, I told stories. When I talk, I storytell to plant the seeds of innovation in someone else's mind.
Paint a picture.
Versus just telling you, talking at. So it's asking questions, listening, and what stories and examples and analogies are you going to use to help someone have a new idea in their mind.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's how you have a date every day. Whether you want it or not, guys. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Nah, we're married. We've got children, right? You have
Yeah.
3 wives, right? That's
I wish.
Woo, culture matters.
Oh man.
What's the biggest takeaway you think you could? Because I mean, you love asking questions.
yeah. I mean, I call it active listening. So it's
I
not
like
just
that.
listening; it's active listening. You're not just sitting there quietly not doing anything. You're actually listening and absorbing the information and hopefully converting it to be able to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So in the conversation, they're giving you information. Hopefully with the story they're going to tell you, you have the solution and you're able to replay it back to them where they understand it. And that way you can align your trust. And now you're both working together to obtain the goal.
What about you,
that's-
man?
That's about the same exact thing. Like
Yeah.
you basically want to listen more than what you talk. You want to figure out like where you can help a person instead of just laying everything right there out on the table. Like, listen, I can help you do X, Y, and Z, and the person doesn't really need that help. So I would definitely say listening more than you actually give actually helps out a lot.
I'm inspired.
You're inspired.
I am too.
This is a fun this is a good video.
This is not just a coffee. I like this.
I feel like we did good for the world.